Welcome back tonight to The Big Question. After shocking revelations in the NYS scam by Josephine Kafura, we asked just what should be done to deal with corruption. Tell us, you never know. It could be your idea that will change Kenya, hopefully. Talk to us, text us on 22422 on Twitter using the hashtag The Big Question. Our guest tonight, constitutional lawyer and Third Way Alliance presidential hopeful, Dr. Ekru Aukot, Senior Counsel Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi, and also lawyer Harun Dubi. Thank you so much all for making time for us tonight. Let's take a look first at what you're saying on Twitter. Sheila Bahati says all posts in government offices starting, that's what I think you mean starting, not stating, they are corruption, or stating, right, they are corruption-free zones, should be brought down as soon as possible. It's a shame, okay? Fernandez, I hope our courts will drive justice by sending them home. We are tired of political businessmen. Lawrence says solution is simple, vote out all leaders plus opposition and have a new government in 2017. That is possible. Mark Pilot, everything owned by anyone accused of corruption should be taken by the state. Right, thank you again, gentlemen, for making time for us. I think, Ahmed Nasir, I'll start with you. We need to clarify that you acted for former Cabinet Secretary Anwar Guru. Yes. You're still a lawyer?
I'm still a lawyer, yes.
Yes. But you're not going into the substantive.
No, we have no problem. We have no problem with addressing the substance. Anywhere, any place, anytime.
Right.
All the time.
For all of you, I'm sure you've seen what happened today with the NYS scandal. Josephine Kafura, 20 companies under her name. Somehow all of them managed to get business, 1.67 billion shillings in total. They were not pre-qualified. She never filed tax returns, she said it. 3 got the 791 million and the other 17, 1.6 billion. And this is just Kafura alone. Shocking details really at the PSC grilling. What do you make of it? I'll start with you.
At some moment one would appear shocked, but I realize that corruption has continued from pre-independence, I think, after independence as well as its time. The sense of entitlement and the sense of feeling like one is untouchable is really what drives corruption in this country. Because I looked at the list of those companies, and if you look at even the account numbers, it's as if they were opened on one day, because they follow each other sequentially, and monies are paid. There are people who do business with government in this country and are not paid their monies within the first 3 or 4 years, are paid after the 5th or 6th year with the so-called pending bills. So you wonder, what is this special thing about these companies that are being paid suddenly, quickly, and the persons who are being paid do not even know what they supplied. Another interesting thing about the Kafura question, though I think there are probably more fundamental issues to deal with in terms of fight corruption in this country, is how possible is it that a government agency decides to subcontract an individual who will also subcontract another to provide a service that they know that they can get from that the primary person. So if you look at it, it's really that there are people in government who are engaging in private seeking and obtaining private benefit from public resources without having to work at all.
Not so shocking, but you're saying you expected this. I mean,
Anglo-Leasing
came seen before. It's not really shocking to you.
Kenren was here, Anglo-Leasing was here, Goldenberg was here. We all get shocked the first 2 weeks and forget it.
Ahmed, are you shocked about this?
No, but the tragedy about corruption in Kenya is, and it comes out very obviously when we have discussions like this, is that people discuss the symptoms. I mean, corruption is a symptom of a failed government. Yes. So we are wasting so much time on corruption, because if we do that, corruption will occur and occur and occur, and it will occur every day. And you can't fix corruption by talking about corruption itself.
Unless what happens? Unless
you fix the institutions of the state. This government, unfortunately, doesn't work. And the Kafura case is a classic example of that. This is a lady, you know, everybody looks at this and we talk about 1.6. Why is the investigation not concluded? Why are we listening to this lady? Everybody knows she is a puppet, but she tells us the puppeteer is X, and we believe her. I mean, it's such an absurd thing, and everybody knows really who are the puppeteers. Everybody knows. Nobody goes about after them. She has won an affidavit, 6 months ago. The Kenya Anti-Corruption investigated every facet of that affidavit. They made a recommendation that everything she said was false, and a recommendation was made on people who are to be charged. Why are they sitting on this?
So who's failing?
But
when you say institutions,
the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission is failing. There is no CID. In this country we have all these problems because the CID nowadays and the CID director Mohoro investigates only land matters. Titles that have expired. It's such a circus. I'm told some of the guys who was released from committee was telling me that committee now does not have hardcore criminals. There are no hardcore criminals. There are no robbers. There are no murderers because those people are no longer taken to court. The people who are there now in committee, I'm told 80% are sexual offenders. 80%, yes. Which means the system in terms of investigating crimes, bringing to court, getting conviction, putting them in prison, it's not there. The system has broken down. Yes.
All the institutions
so
are messed up.
Let us not waste time about corruption, who has stolen, because there are so many stealing. Corruption is when it is small. There's no corruption actually in this country. It's now looting. You loot when there's no law and order. There's corruption when the system works. So let us not discuss, the symptoms.
Yeah. Okay, I'll come to you to tell me what you think should be done. That magic thing that you think should be done. Dr. Fakor.
Hussein, I don't know what corruption is, but I know what theft is.
You call it theft since yesterday, I remember, yeah.
It's really theft of public money, and it's theft by people that we know. If you imagine, for example, Kavura, who is she? To have really, this stranger, hardly known, even in Kenyan political circles or public circles, to actually go into a government department and get away with 1.67 billion Kenyan shillings. This is theft, and the truth for the matter is this, that the systems and the institutions of this country are run by crooks, are run by thieves. People actually who perpetrate, they orchestrate, they find a puppet like Kavura to siphon money for their own benefit. This is exactly what happens, because we saw the drama today that was unfolding before parliamentary committee, and this woman was not even able to respond to questions.
What did you make of her demeanor, by the way?
You see, Kavura, I think...
we actually saw the MPs were really agitated.
Yeah, but
how she was responding to them.
This is a person,
she was aloof.
There is a gun to her head. She doesn't know. She's a person who was being used as a conduit. This is actually, typically speaking, money laundering. It's criminal, and I think the people behind her are very powerful. Basically, they are in politics. They run institutions. So we are talking about theft. Daylight robbery. This is what Kavura proved today. Because honestly, how do you explain carrying about 1 million Kenya shillings in a bag?
52 million.
Oh, there's more to that. So the truth for the matter is this: we have a failed government, failed institutions because of the people who are in charge of it. And I think what Kenyans need to think about, I don't really want to talk about corruption. I think let's talk about solutions. And for me, really, solution number one is, first of all, a couple of weeks ago, President Uhuru Kenyatta said that I don't know what to do.
I'm coming to that. That is why I told even Ahmed I want to hear, because he's really agitated with the institutions. I want to hear the solution he has. Okay. I also want you to comment about Ministry of Health. And tomorrow, we hear EACC has already questioned Bernard Mushere, the auditor. They're going to question the cabinet secretary. They're going to question the principal secretary. The last time we saw a minister being questioned by EACC of an investigation, it was suspended.
The one thing that surprises me all the time is how politicians in parliament seem to perform dismally better than the EACC. You will recall that the EACC had cleared my friend's client, Anne Waiguru, until Kavura came with the affidavit, and then they said, oh, we are going back to an investigation, and they are continuing to investigate. And from the newspaper reports, the media reports we get, you will see that the parliamentary committee, PSC, seems to have a better idea, however dismal, than the EACC is doing. So that is one of the failures. Two, which is important, is that I am one of those who are very pessimistic about this parliamentary process, because I'm imagining that whereas Parliament knows that this woman has been charged in court with a criminal offense and she's presumed innocent until the evidence proves otherwise, they are asking her questions and even threatening her in such a way that she could very easily use the Hansard of today's proceedings to defend herself before a constitutional court and get away with the charges against her.
The case has already been determined.
There is no fair trial,
I mean, Kenya is a Shakespearean tragedy, unfortunately, and I'm a little bit surprised when my learned friend here says that, you know, Parliament is better than EAC. Parliament is dead. It's 5 years dead. I mean, when did we have Parliament? The last Parliament was Marenda's Parliament. I mean, when you hear committees in Parliament don't investigate anything, people give them recommendations to make. I mean, they do a hatchet job. For you now to say that Parliament is doing job, you know, it shows how you are disconnected from the reality of Kenya today. Let me finish. Let me finish. The system is broken. So don't say the system works. Parliament doesn't work. I mean, Muturi, I was seeing him in the papers the other day castigating someone saying that, you know, you are abusing the president. Is it the job of the Speaker of Parliament to come to the President's defense when he is not presiding over a motion in Parliament? Look at how hopelessly incompetent he is.
That's why I said it has performed dismally better than ESSC.
No.
So you can imagine
when you say performed dismally, you are grading it. It has not performed because it was dead for 5 years. It's dead.
No, but you know, I think the question really is, who really is fit in this country today to investigate the other in corruption? In fact, one of the most lucrative jobs in Kenya today is actually to investigate corruption. Because, I mean, seriously, I think the moment you are that investigator of corruption, you actually make millions because nobody bothers. Because, like they say, fish rots from the head. There is no value system that cascades downwards, even to the small man, because right from the top, the executive, to the legislature, to the investigators, everybody is a thief. I think this country needs a total overhaul.
How?
And this is what Kenyans really need.
How? Let's take a look at what President Kenyatta said. This is 2 weeks ago. Somehow after he spoke in State House, there have been crazy corruption scandals going on since. But let's hear what he said.
How many cases do you have?
Now, do you expect me? What do you want? You to go and set up a firing squad at Uhuru Park so that people can be happy? Are we not a country that respects the rule of law? Who releases people on bond here every day? Who does? Sininyinyi. What does that got to do with me? What does it got to do? I don't even have power, like I said, to appoint you or to sack you. So, mnataka nifanye nini jameni?
You were talking about solutions.
You know, I mean, President Uhuru, you know, got a lot of flack on that statement, for that statement. In one way, Kenyans are right, because he takes blame on a certain extent. On the other, they are wrong in putting all the blame on him. I think where the president goes, I don't first buy the view that, you know, I mean, the president has abdicated. I mean, the president just pointed a very important problem he faces. But what he doesn't realize is that the buck stops with him. He is the person who has appointed most of these guys. He has the powers to fire them. It's not true that he can't fire, for example. He can fire the police commissioner, he can fire the CID, he can appoint tribunals for all these guys to be removed, he can fire the attorney general, all these guys. So the president, the mistake where he makes is that 4 years in power, he has realized that 90% of the people who he has appointed are incompetent. So where is the mistake? He still retains them. That's the mistake he's making. That is the mistake,
yes. So what I think we are dealing with is really political conmanship. right from President. Like I don't want to repeat what senior councillor said. Of course, this guy has all the powers. Today you're saying, even if you are...
But in some positions, unless somebody petitions, I mean, unless a process is instituted so that it comes to him, he can really not do anything, can he?
Inspector General Kimayo...
What can he do?
Can I answer that? Can I answer that? Yes. Even where there are constitutional process and the security of tenure, if the president calls a person and says that I don't have confidence in you, I want you to resign, we don't want to go through this long process, that person will resign.
He will.
Look, so it doesn't have to wait for the constitutional process.
I think President Uhuru, look here. President Uhuru, by the way, first of all, is being dishonest with Kenyans. And I think we really need to underscore that point. You know, I've heard them many times speak about we are democracy, a country of rule of law and blah, 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 blah. You know, what happens in other countries, when you're actually unable, for example, to fulfill a function that you've been given, the honorable thing to do is to actually resign. So what I think President Uhuru could actually do after that admission is to say, you know what, Kenyans, I am not able to actually fight this corruption.
Okay, finish your statement.
Yeah, so I'm not able to fight this corruption. I think I'm stepping down because this is a national disaster. I'm not able to. Because corruption, corruption is killing Kenyans today.
Okay, you think if the president says he has the corruption...
No, he wants an early election. I don't know what...
No.
You think that will be the solution?
You know what? The solution is not...
It's an option.
The point I think Ekuru is making, which is important, is that the president admitted to inability, to incapacity, to unwillingness, a lot of the negatives in terms of fighting corruption. The most important point I think the president should be focusing on is when they sought him and William Ruto sought the presidency in 2012, 2013, and they got it. What systems did they put in place in terms of fighting corruption? One, nothing. Even as it spoke at the Accountability Summit, I did not see the Attorney General giving an account of what audit he has done of the legal system, the laws, to say these laws hamper the fight against corruption, or these laws promote corruption. They did not say what are the systems we put in place in terms of systems of governance on government that detect and interdict corruption before it happens. And though when it happens, how do we then deal with those that it deals with? We are asking Kenyans to tolerate. We are asking Kenyans to tolerate suspects of corruption, and yet the suspects of corruption we are being asked to tolerate, but they are not able to tolerate Kenyans saying that, okay, as soon as you are a suspect of corruption and there is credible or reasonable evidence, you must be removed from government. Investigation is conducted adequately.
Which they pride themselves to doing.
They don't.
Can I make up one correction? First, I think we are lawyers and we are using, terms that are very legalistic. When you say, for example, the president has abdicated or he has given up, I mean, I think what the president did was he expressed his frustration. But as lawyers, we can say that that's self-induced frustration. I mean, because he is the author of that frustration himself. But I don't think we can say that the president has really thrown up his hands. But I think one other problem the government...
He actually fiscally did.
No,
what do you want me to do?
What do you want me to do?
One problem, a major problem this government has is that even when it fights corruption, even when it has something good to show, I mean, it has lost so much credibility that people don't trust it, People don't give it, the credit it deserves. People don't give it the benefit of doubt. That's another problem it has.
I want to add on that point.
Okay.
Listen, first of all, it's really, we have to underscore this point. It's not even right that President Uhuru says, or what can I do? Last year, he went to Parliament in the State of the, State of the Union address, and he actually tabled that report. And he spoke so powerfully about corruption. Many of us thought, okay, wait a minute. I think here we have a guy actually who is doing something. Now, we also know that he actually enticed the Matemu-led commission of EACC to actually resign, including some of his guys. So I think what...
Actually, they were coerced.
His guys or he? His guys or he?
The problem, no, he himself. The problem I have is that some of us are privy to what...
You have that evidence that the president...
He even offered some of them ambassadorial position and stuff like that to leave. So what I think the problem with fighting corruption in Kenya, number one, is we need to stop this double speak. When the president seems to be in favor or to favor certain corruption practices, where I think some of his lieutenants are involved, he says, "Oh, what can I do?" But where it is about something...
This is why he said, "What can I do?" And now that you're talking about the State of the Nation address, don't you think do you think this holds water when they pride themselves in having suspended cabinet secretaries and a list of 175, including senior government officials, both in national and county government?
Actually,
so now they say, let me just finish. So now he says, that is why he was expressing his frustrations. What else do I do? Because it's not me. It's gone to EACC, it's gone to DCI, and now finally the judiciary. It is dishonesty. The president is completely dishonest about this. And we are focusing on corruption as if it is an issue of bribery and theft, like Ekuru puts it. Even political corruption, where the president goes around poaching people, politicians from the opposition, and saying you come and join government because that's how you will get development. That is a statement of corruption, because of we will be favoring you because you are supporting us, and that favoritism comes, and you will see it even from the members of the opposition who are engaging in the NYS scandal business, that because they are associated somehow with the government, there is no limelight on them. Okay.
In fact,
but I think the president makes a mistake. For example, when he says that 177 people should resign and then send. The president shouldn't have done that, because he knew at that point that the institution he's sending these names to investigate don't have capacity. The CID doesn't have capacity. The Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission doesn't have capacity. So he knows. I mean, this is a game of musical chairs. He knows that. Look at what happened to those cabinet ministers. Some of them, have, unfairly sent, some very trivial things, that. Nothing has happened 1.5 years down the road.
Right.
No investigation. Nothing. They're in a state of suspension.
He has raised a very key point. When then do you draw the line between mudslinging and fighting corruption? And according to you, because now we're looking for solutions, what do you think should happen when somebody is mentioned to have been involved in a corrupt practice? What should they do? From anybody, whoever says Ahmed Nasir today as a minister so and so was hard saying this or doing this, you should step aside.
Then let me tell you one thing.
You should step, or what should happen?
No, the tragedy in Kenya is that the corruption agenda is being driven by people like my friends, the NGOs, civil society. They will carry billboards and say, for example, X is corrupt.
But I'm an NGO.
Let me finish. Let me finish. Then everybody believes, that it's corruption. Why are they driving the agenda? It's because the government is not credible.
You heard the NGOs speaking about Minister of Health before the.
You are demonstrating tomorrow.
No, before the auditors.
But that's the tragedy. Let me finish. Sometimes innocent Kenyans who do excellent job for the public service. Harun Indubi will carry a billboard and say that they are corrupt, and then it's become a sacrifice. Yes, it's become a sacrifice.
So what should happen? What should happen?
We need to invest in credible institutions. Let's have a credible CID, let's have a credible police, let's have a credible anti-corruption, DPP, so that when the CID, for example, say that X is corrupt, everybody trusts them.
That is easy to say.
So
that is very easy to say.
CID that investigates type of things.
No. You'll respond. I want to get that point.
Okay.
Respond.
Yes,
so according to you, it is these institutions that should say that to occasion somebody to step aside or resign.
Absolutely.
Not just anybody else.
Not even the president really should not talk about this. Let us look at now the judiciary. I mean, the judiciary now is the most credible institution in this country, and thanks to the former Chief Justice and the people who worked with him. We need to invest in institutions.
But what if they are compromised?
Yes.
Wouldn't it be the same?
There are checks and balances if they are compromised.
No, Hussein,
but let us not allow civil society, the president, opposition. Look at, for example, now Raila says X is corrupt. Everybody will believe him.
No. I think Ahmed Nasir is trivializing a very important point around the fight against corruption, if there is such a fight. Or let me say, is trivializing the issue of corruption. The point is that, first, corruption is real. Let's not start to mask it.
And it kills.
It's real, it kills. If you look at the Minister of Health, for instance, a friend of mine was telling me today, reminding me about that chap who was shot at the American embassy who had attacked a police officer with a machete. He said, this guy might have succeeded to kill one man. But one person, whether it was Kafura or the guy Muraguri or whoever, the Minister of Health, would by now have killed hundreds of thousands of Kenyan women and children through the corruption scandal.
That we agree.
Now, the point I'm making is, the issue is not about credible institutions. It is also about credible leadership. Because President Uhuru just like President Mwai Kibaki missed the shot long ago, because in 2003, Kenyans believed that Mwai Kibaki was ready to fight corruption. And that is how, in the first few months of the Kibaki administration of 2003, the citizens were recovering bribery money from traffic cops and arresting cops and giving that money to public institutions such as the Machakos Hospital.
And then what happened?
When Anglo-leasing happened, they said, oh,
So
it doesn't matter, and we are lost. So the issue is political will from the top. This issue of Uhuru Kenyatta believing that he is helpless is actually making Kenyans, it's a statement of saying, be corrupt.
Now that's that is now what I call the Kenyan national fallacy. You don't need the political will of the president to fight corruption. You need independent institutions to fight corruption. When you subcontract the political will of the president, he will talk or speak according to his political agenda, and that's what we don't want. What we want is institutions independently to fight corruption, which are failed.
So how do we do it? This is not the first time we're setting up this institution.
No, you see.
We inject new blood.
No, Hussein, let me tell you, Hussein, the problem is, the president also takes the blame because he has appointed most of these idiots who are in these institutions.
Let me ask you, I want to ask one question. Let me ask him one little question about the performance of the judiciary. And I'm asking this completely impartial. Ahmed Nasser, do you believe that there are cartels within the judiciary, and is there a role you played within the making of those cartels which promote corruption in the judiciary?
No, that's absurd. I mean, it's a silly question.
Of course.
Yes.
It sounds silly.
It doesn't sound, it is silly.
Before we go personal, listen, first of all, I think I'd like to agree with Ahmed Nasser that we need institutions, independent institutions. But listen, independent institution is an abstract reality. What does that mean? Let's deconstruct them. For me, my starting point will be, we need a total overhaul of our system. And that system has to start with the political leadership of this country.
Whether in government, whether in opposition.
Everywhere.
It's everybody's problem.
Listen, yesterday, Third Way Alliance read a statement, and we recorded about 33 corruption scandals in this country. And we named names, both the guys in government and people in the opposition. And all we are saying is this: the people we are trying to entrust even to appoint those independent institutions, Senior Ahmed, are the same people who have benefited from corruption. Tell me any of the guys today who say they want to lead Kenya tomorrow in 2017, who in the last 10 years haven't really benefited from corruption. From Raila to Uhuru to mention anybody.
So actually, that is the basis. That is the basis of the question I was asking my friend. That's the basis I'm asking.
If we must fix this country, people like us here, Ahmed, Ndubi, speak of the problems of this country so eloquently, so knowledgeable, but they don't really want to get involved. They're actually fence sitters, and I'm challenging all these fellows
to join you.
That's not fair. Some of us have been in the trenches for the last 15, 20 years. Yes. Which is the first time you are coming to the trenches.
Remember, I began this by asking even the viewers, because look, we're still hopeless. The viewers watching now, still hopeless. Ahmed Nasser talks about institutions. You talk about changing the whole system. He agrees with you.
Yeah.
But that has been done before. Changing the whole system, you mean through elections?
We've never really changed the whole
through elections? You mean through elections?
Yes. We need a political revolt.
We've gone through so many elections, it doesn't change, does it?
No, but who are we electing?
We've tried to inject new blood in institutions, it doesn't work. I'm coming to...
Who are we electing for the last 10 years? Tell me.
Well, they still keep getting elected. And that is voters' rights.
That's what we are saying.
So my question is, we started this by asking people, what is this magic thing that you know or you think can solve the criminal? I'll get somebody straight who says, actually, yes, the president should have used the firing squad. Maybe that can trigger something.
That's Mashara Gaido.
No, somebody else said it. Mashara Gaido also said it.
No, as the president rightly said, we are a country governed by the rule of law. And I come back to my point that if you want to change this government, you need to change through institutions, through the rule of law. And I will give you the judiciary, because that's my pet subject. When Willie Mutunga was brought to that judiciary with all its history, and he was appointed in the manner that he was appointed, Kenyans could see for themselves, despite all the problems that he faced in terms of, you know, lack of budget, in terms of corruption here. But Kenyans could see, let me finish. You don't know much. I know a lot about the judiciary's money. There was some change you could see. The justice reached certain parts of the country that it never. There was a lot of fairness in the rulings. I'm not saying it was perfect.
Because there were corruption cases.
Yes, there are scandals.
Yeah.
But you see, compare now that, for example, look at, for example, what the JSC did in the judiciary to what the Police Service Commission did with the police. That is how institutions can be reformed, when you put the right people in the right place. That's my exhibit.
And that's what I was saying for me, as I agree with Ahmed. Even for a country like Kenya, and dealing with this disaster we now call corruption, honestly, we cannot afford a president who says, I'm not able to do anything. In fact, I was hoping that, I'm really hoping, maybe tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, you can tell us, after hosting Magufuli of Tanzania for the last 2 days, maybe he learned some lessons, and that Magufuli actually showed him that, you know, you can use the power of the presidency, where you're a hands-on guy. You can actually go in and actually tell guys, I don't want this. I'm really hoping that. But it is so sad. You know, why are we not learning examples?
So you still, Dr. Court, at the end of the day, it's still through the ballot.
For me, I still think what?
Do you think that will ever happen?
You know,
No.
Hussein,
I think
let me before you come in.
Yeah.
You know, Kenyans are a very dishonest lot. All of us here, we are very dishonest. You know, when we made the 2010 Constitution, Hussein, you know, by the way, Kenya is the only country in the world with an entire chapter called Leadership and Integrity. Entire country of the world. Look at any constitution in the world. There is none that has dedicated a chapter on leadership and integrity. In other words, we are saying we want a certain type and character of leaders that can actually live the ethos and values of the institution. But what do? We elect suspects, we elect thieves, we elect people who have stolen from CDF, we elect the people that Ahmed is saying, not my words, idiots, into leadership. So really...
And there are many.
And there are many. So the question really is, why can't Kenyans be honest with themselves for the first time and say, and you know, when we were doing devolution chapter, we said, okay, you know what, many of you guys have said, oh, KANU regime marginalized us, especially us from the Northern Frontier District. We said, well, this time round, we are going to give you governors with the resources, and you pick your best to take care of your resources. But what do people do? Look now, 24 counties of Code are all thieves. 23 counties of Jubilee, thieves. So Kenyans are the most dishonest laws.
Which brings me one to the point that Ahmed Nasir said, and I'm happy he turned around to get to where I was, that we actually need individuals with the political will, because he said institutions, yes, but he singled out Willie Mutunga as his exhibit MFI 1, which a lawyers use in court usually. That this is the, you know, the marked for identification. The point I'm making is political will is important, significant, and fundamental, because in institutions we have, look at all these independent institutions, but you have fellows who have been appointed, but every time they have to call, or they receive telephone calls. I am actually saddened, and I may report this to Ahmed Nasir, that within this year, I've engaged with 2 cases in court where I've been informed that a telephone call has been made to a magistrate to rule one way or the other.
Telephone call? Well, that's criminal. You should have reported as a lawyer.
That's all right.
Yes.
You may say that. It is easy to say on national television.
No.
The point I'm making, Ahmed Nasir, is this, that our institutions are starting to collapse, and they are collapsing thanks to the leadership of our President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Under the new constitution.
Under the new constitution, telephone calls are being made to a magistrate, detain that person for longer, keep this one for this time, and do not allow bail.
And that you can prove, like he said. That you can prove, and you should have reported it.
I have received that information, yes, from my clients and people who are closely associated. The point I'm making is, and perhaps this is information that should go to the Chief Justice, Honorable Maraga, that the independence that Willie Mutunga had breathed to the judiciary seems to be clawed back quietly, slowly. and he needs to do something about it.
Okay.
No, secondly, you asked about solutions. About solutions, I think the Attorney General and the entire system of government, I'm talking about the center of those, whoever manages government, needs to look at the institutional legal framework to say where are the loopholes, how do we detect better, because look at Kafura's statements today, that even IFMIS, as it's reputed to be the most effective way of payment on the checks and balances, it's still bypassed. Two, we know that there are many suppliers to government today who have not been paid for the last 5 or even more years with the pending bills, and here is a company that is registered within 1 year, 10, 20 companies registered within 1 year, and getting paid, getting paid within, they get 50% upfront payment within a day or two of putting their claim. And yet there are people who have supplied the government with services and they don't get paid.
Thank you. So political will is still very important. Okay, you're winding conversation.
My one conversation is the solution for this country, one, is Third Way Alliance. We need an alternative leadership for this country.
Political parties.
Yes. To be honest with you, I think we need, okay, even if it's not Third Way Alliance, but let's do this. Vote for yourself. For the first time, think about the things that really affect you as a Kenyan and say, I'm going to vote for these things. But the truth for the matter is we need a responsive, transformational leadership for this country. Number two, Hussein, we really must elevate this talk of corruption or public theft to a higher crime. For me, it should even be murder going forward. And people really must hang by the neck until they die. Because when they steal money meant for medicine, for ICU, HDU, they're actually committing murder on innocent, sick Kenyans. And I think we must really elevate it to a higher level.
Ahmed, you want to comment?
Yes, I will go back where I started, corruption, we are addressing symptoms, of a failed political system. If you want us to fight corruption, don't talk about this episodic events of, NHIF, NSSF, NYS. There are so many. But what we need is fix the system, fix institutions. And the president, you don't really need the political will of the president. What you need is for the president, when he knows that X is not performing, for him to be fired instead of him being on the job for 5 years. No. It's a political call.
Okay, thank you very much. Senior Counsel Ahmed Nasser Abdullah says it's about fixing the institution. You talk about Dr. Ekuru Aukot, Third Way Alliance presidential hopeful, also a constitutional lawyer, talks about changing the whole leadership through the ballot, and you talk about political will. All this have been talked about before. But according to you, the three of you, we thank you so much for making time for us. That should be the magic, individually, respectively, with what you're thinking. I don't know.
You refuse to
I don't know what you think is the magic as the viewer. I keep asking you that. Keep talking to us. 22422 on Twitter using the hashtag The Big Question. Now, details emerging out of the ongoing investigations into the NYS scandal place 7 suspects at the heart of the looting spree. Michael Njenga looks at the profiles of the 2 women and 5 men whose names have featured prominently thus far.